Hello everyone, John AG here. Welcome back to my channel, Aurex. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, in this channel you will find the real information, real market updates that everyone cannot tell you. So please subscribe this channel and love you all of my subscribers for your support. And please watch this video till the very end, because YouTube will not push my videos to more people. Today is Sunday, May 18th, 2026. I want you to stop whatever you are doing for just a moment and look out your window. Look at the street. Look at the cars driving by. Look at the staggering contrast between the narrative you are being fed and the reality you are actually living. If you pay attention to the mainstream financial media right now, you are being sold a very specific, carefully curated, and highly sanitized story. You are being told that the global economy is resilient. You are hearing talking heads celebrate the fact that the artificial intelligence boom has injected nearly $1 trillion in capital expenditure into the markets. You are hearing that the S&P 500 is fundamentally sound, that technology is ushering in a new utopia, and that if you just hold on a little bit longer, keep your head down, and keep paying your taxes, the wealth will eventually, magically, trickle down to you. But let me ask you a question that might make you uncomfortable. I want you to be brutally honest with yourself right now. How does your bank account actually feel? How does your chest feel? What is that spike of anxiety you experience when you walk into a grocery store, when you open your monthly energy bill, or when you dare to look at the current price of a starter home in your city? There is a profound, chilling, and deliberate disconnect between the macroeconomic charts paraded on financial television and the suffocating, day-to-day reality lived by 99% of the global population. You are working harder right now than you ever have in your entire life. You are consuming more financial education, reading more books, watching more podcasts than any generation in human history. You are budgeting every penny. You are working a side hustle. You are skipping the vacations. You are saving your fiat currency. Yet despite all of this immense, exhausting kinetic energy, you feel like you are running on a treadmill that is slowly but surely accelerating beyond your physical capacity to keep up. You feel blocked. You feel an invisible, heavy, suffocating wall standing right between the life you desperately want to provide for your family and the harsh financial reality you are currently trapped inside. Today, we are going to tear down that wall brick by brick. We are going to expose the financial blockage that absolutely no one in the traditional institutional finance space has the courage to discuss with you. Listen to me very carefully. This blockage is not just a lack of capital. It is not just a temporary bad investment strategy or a subpar credit score. The financial blockage I am talking about is a deeply complex, psychological, and systemic paralysis. It is your relationship to what you want, colliding violently with a global financial system that is actively, aggressively changing its rules in real time to ensure you never actually get it. To understand why you feel so profoundly stuck in the middle of 2026, you cannot just look at your own spending habits. You have to zoom out. You have to look at the massive geopolitical board you are playing on as a pawn. You have to understand the global energy wars, the sovereign debt spirals, and the psychological warfare being waged on your relationship with money every single second of the day. Let us strip away the noise, the algorithms, and the political theater, and look at the brutal geopolitical and economic reality of this exact moment in history. Think back to the early 2020s. We were promised by the smartest economists in the room that the inflation we were feeling was merely transitory. We were promised that by now, central banks would have engineered a beautiful, painless, soft landing, bringing prices back down to earth without causing a recession. But what is the truth? What is the reality right now? The reality is that inflation did not vanish. It became sticky, structural, and institutionalized. The cost of living has permanently rebased at a higher level, and your wages have absolutely failed to catch up. While we were all distracted by the latest AI chatbots and virtual reality headsets, the geopolitical tectonic plates shifted completely beneath our feet. We are currently witnessing a massive, ongoing restructuring of global trade. The supply chains that brought you cheap goods for 40 years are broken and fracturing. We are seeing conflicts over energy and resources that have fundamentally disrupted global commodity markets. Crucial shipping lanes and choke points for global trade are compromised, sending insurance premiums and shipping costs skyrocketing. This has triggered a new rolling commodity shock. The cost of energy, the baseline of human civilization, is surging. And you need to understand that energy is everything. It is the invisible cost embedded in the manufacturing of the goods you buy, the transportation of the food you feed your children, and the electricity required to keep your home warm. When energy goes up, everything goes up. Simultaneously, governments across the developed world are in a state of quiet panic. In the face of a rapidly fragmenting, multipolar world, defense spending is absolutely skyrocketing. Major economies are rearming at a pace not seen since the Cold War. We are seeing governments run massive, wartime fiscal deficits during what is technically peacetime. To fund this unprecedented spending, governments and central banks are trapped. They cannot raise taxes high enough without triggering a revolt, so they are doing what empires have done for thousands of years. They are printing currency and issuing debt at levels that defy mathematical reality. What does this geopolitical chess game have to do with your personal financial blockage? Everything. It is the very foundation of it. You have been raised, educated, and conditioned with a 20th century operating system for wealth creation, but you are living in a 21st century economic war zone. You were explicitly taught that money is a reliable store of value. You were taught by your parents, by your teachers, by society, that if you just trade your precious time and your physical labor for currency and save that currency in a traditional bank account, you will eventually cross the finish line into financial freedom and a comfortable retirement. But in 2026, the fiat currency you are breaking your back and sacrificing your youth to accumulate is being mathematically engineered to melt in your hands. You are playing a slow game of accumulation, trying to save pennies, while the sovereign system above you is playing an aggressive game of trillion-dollar dilution. The first layer of your financial blockage is what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. It is the painful, subconscious, agonizing realization that the fundamental rules you were taught to follow are no longer valid, but you don't know what the new rules are yet. You want financial freedom, but your relationship to money is entirely based on submission to a system that explicitly requires your perpetual, unending labor. You are trying to fill a bucket with water, but the bucket has a massive, government-sized hole drilled into the bottom of it. Think about how this plays out in your life. Every time you get close to your goal, maybe you finally save up that 20% down payment for a house, or you hit a specific milestone in your retirement account, the system maliciously moves the goalposts. They devalue the purchasing power of the currency, asset prices surge wildly out of your reach, and you are left standing there feeling inadequate, depressed, and wondering what on earth you did wrong. Let me look you in the eye right now and tell you this. You didn't do anything wrong. You are just playing by the rules of a game that officially ended over a decade ago. Now, we must turn the mirror inward. This is the part of the video that is going to be incredibly hard to hear. But as an Aurex subscriber, you are not here for comforting lies. You are here for the cold, hard, unvarnished truth. If the macroeconomic environment is so heavily rigged against the average person, why do some people still manage to break through? Why is generational wealth still being created right now, in the midst of this chaos, while the vast majority of the population remains entirely paralyzed? The answer lies in your deep psychological relationship to what you want. Most people in this world do not actually have a relationship with wealth. They have a deeply traumatized relationship with scarcity. I want you to really think about this. Think about the physiological reaction in your body when you have to pay a large, unexpected bill. Think about the physical sensation, the tightness in your chest, the shallow breathing, when you look at your bank account balance a few days before payday. It is a feeling of severe contraction. It is a feeling of primal fear. It is a pure, unadulterated survival mechanism. This physiological panic is the exact manifestation of the financial blockage. From a very young age, you are socially conditioned to view wealth not as a natural state of abundance that can be generated through value creation, but as a finite, heavily guarded resource that is hoarded by evil people and must be aggressively, ruthlessly fought for. When you desire money from a place of deep desperation and fear, you project the energy of lack. You become entirely reactionary rather than visionary. You make decisions based on surviving the next 30 days rather than positioning yourself for the next 30 years. In a world where artificial intelligence is rapidly, ruthlessly commoditizing middle-tier cognitive labor, being reactionary is a financial death sentence. Right now, in 2026, AI is not just a novelty. It is actively absorbing millions of tasks, restructuring entire global industries, and forcing humans to adapt or be permanently left behind in the economic dust. If your fundamental relationship to money is simply, I must perform a manual or cognitive task to receive a paycheck so I can survive the month, You are now competing directly against silicon processors that do not sleep, do not get sick, do not ask for union representation, and operate at the speed of light. Your financial blockage is deeply rooted in the fact that you still view yourself as a laborer in an economic era that absolutely demands you become an owner, an investor, and an orchestrator of capital. You say you want financial freedom. You talk about it. You dream about it. You watch videos about it. But subconsciously, deep down in the dark corners of your mind, you are terrified of it. Financial freedom requires breaking the trauma bonds of your past. It requires stepping completely out of the familiar, comfortable identity of the hard worker who is always struggling into the entirely foreign, highly responsible identity of the capital allocator who builds empires. Here is a hook that should catch your attention. Many of you watching this right now are blocked because your entire identity, your entire ego, is wrapped up in the romantic nobility of your struggle. You complain endlessly about the economy, about the politicians, about the central banks, but secretly, the struggle gives you a profound sense of purpose. It gives you a villain to fight. It gives you an excuse for why you haven't reached your potential. If you actually achieved the massive wealth you claim to desire tomorrow, who would you be without the struggle? What would you do with your life if you couldn't complain about the system anymore? This is the ultimate fatal blockage. We self-sabotage to maintain our familiar identities. We make terrible, emotionally driven investment decisions. We panic sell our assets when the markets dip and the news tells us the sky is falling. We experience FOMO and buy into the very top of ridiculous hype cycles and meme coins. And most tragically, we completely ignore the slow, boring, methodical, compounding asset accumulation that actually builds real generational wealth. We do all of this destructive behavior because we are desperately seeking an immediate emotional release from our financial anxiety, rather than executing a cold, calculated, emotionless strategy for total liberation. To unblock yourself, you must radically elevate your perspective. As Albert Einstein famously said, you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. You must understand the geopolitical board as it stands today, not as you wish it was. We are currently living through the greatest, most volatile financial restructuring since the Bretton Woods Agreement at the end of World War II. The entire world is rapidly fracturing into multipolar, hostile blocs. The BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the dozens of newly added partner nations, are not just having meetings anymore. They are actively, aggressively building alternative global financial infrastructure to completely bypass the Western-dominated SWIFT system. They are hoarding physical gold at an astonishing rate. Central bank demand for gold over the last 5 years has broken every historical record. Why? Why are the most powerful sovereign entities on Earth accumulating shiny yellow metal, while the media tells you to buy overvalued tech stocks? Because the rest of the world has realized what you are just now, painfully, beginning to feel. The current fiat currency system is a massive, debt-based illusion that has been heavily weaponized by political powers. When you see global supply chains aggressively decoupling, when you see protective tariffs rising across the globe, when you see major sovereign nations trading critical energy supplies in local currencies outside of the US dollar system, you are watching the agonizing death of globalization as we knew it. You need to understand that deglobalization is inherently, violently inflationary. It means the golden era of cheap consumer goods, manufactured overseas with cheap labor and shipped to your front door with zero friction, is permanently over. This means that over the next decade, your personal purchasing power will be under a constant, relentless, multi-front siege. The financial blockage occurs and hardens when you stubbornly try to save your way to wealth in a system that is fundamentally designed to tax you invisibly through the silent theft of inflation. The wealthy elite understand this entirely. The massive financial institutions understand this perfectly. That is exactly why they are not holding their net worth in cash. They are aggressively buying hard, tangible assets. They are buying up single-family real estate. They are buying critical infrastructure. They are monopolizing farmland, and they are investing heavily in the physical energy grids and data centers that will power the AI revolution. They are deliberately borrowing fiat currency, which they know is losing value every single day, to buy scarce assets that are holding or appreciating in value. The financial blockage for the average hardworking person is the paralyzing, socially engineered fear of debt and a complete fundamental misunderstanding of what risk actually is. You have been taught by financial entertainers that all debt is bad, that you should pay off your low-interest mortgage, and that holding cash in a savings account is the safest thing you can do. But I am telling you, in May 2026, holding depreciating fiat currency while global energy prices surge and supply chains fracture is the ultimate, most reckless risk you could possibly take with your family's future. To unblock your financial reality, you must completely align your personal micro-strategy with the massive, unstoppable macroeconomic tide. You must stop fighting the current. If governments are mathematically forced to print money to fund defense, handle entitlement programs, and subsidize energy transitions, you must position yourself to own the exact assets that benefit from that relentless money printing. If artificial intelligence is going to drive trillions of dollars in capital expenditure, you must figure out how to position yourself in the sectors that provide the picks and shovels, the infrastructure, the baseload energy, and the proprietary data for those systems. Let us take a deep breath here. I know this is incredibly heavy. I know this is a massive amount of complex information to process all at once. This exact feeling of being overwhelmed is exactly why I created Aurex. Because the real, actionable truth is never found in a superficial 15-second social media clip. The truth requires intense context, historical depth, and the rare courage to look directly into the economic abyss without blinking. I know exactly how exhausting it is out there. I see the thousands of comments you leave on my videos every week. I read your emails late at night. I know there are fathers out there working 60 to 70 hours a week, coming home physically and mentally destroyed, looking at their sleeping children and feeling a silent, crushing, agonizing guilt that they cannot provide the absolute safety net they always imagined they would. I know there are brilliant young professionals watching this who did everything society told them was right. They took on the massive student debt, they got the prestigious degree, they secured the corporate job, and are now waking up to the horrifying realization that they cannot even afford a starter home in the very city they grew up in. I feel that frustration deeply. It is entirely valid. Your anger is 100% justified. You were sold a fraudulent social contract that has been violently torn up right in front of your face. But listen to me. Anger is not an investment strategy. Resentment is not a yielding asset class. Bitterness will not pay your future grocery bills. If you allow your righteous anger at this broken system to curdle into a permanent state of victimhood, the system wins. The elites win. The financial blockage solidifies into impenetrable concrete. The very moment you throw your hands up and declare, "The whole thing is rigged, so why should I even bother trying?" you have voluntarily and permanently sealed your own economic fate. Yes, the geopolitical board is rigged. Yes, the economic game is wildly unfair. Yes, inflation is a hidden, regressive tax that punishes the poor. And yes, the global elites are playing by an entirely different set of rules behind closed doors. So what is your move? You learn their rules. You master their game. The ultimate, life-changing liberation begins the exact moment you accept macroeconomic reality exactly as it is, without any romantic illusions, and decide to navigate it with absolute, cold-blooded ruthlessness. How do you fundamentally change your relationship to what you want? How do you clear this blockage? First, you must immediately and permanently detach your personal self-worth from your financial net worth. Your inherent value as a living, breathing human being is immutable and infinite. The number of digital digits in your bank account is simply a lagging reflection of the specific value you have successfully provided to the marketplace, multiplied by the systemic leverage you have utilized. It is nothing more than cold data. It is not a reflection of your soul. When you finally remove the crushing emotional weight from your money, you will stop making panicked decisions out of fear and start making precise, calculated decisions based on pure probability and math. Second, you must violently kill the consumer mindset that has been implanted in your brain and give birth to a relentless producer mindset. The entire modern global economy is a highly optimized machine designed specifically to extract two things from you: your focused attention and your hard-earned capital. Every application on your phone, every advertisement you see, every cultural narrative pushed by the media is algorithmically engineered to make you a passive, obedient consumer of someone else's creation. The financial blockage is maintained and strengthened by keeping you perpetually addicted to short-term dopamine hits. It wants you buying things you do not actually need, using credit card money you do not actually have, all to impress people you do not even fundamentally like. You must execute a hard pivot. You must transition from a passive consumer to an aggressive owner. You must begin accumulating equity, no matter how incredibly small you have to start. You must relentlessly buy pieces of profitable businesses, fractions of real estate, strategic digital assets, and hard commodities. You must obsessively build high-income skills that absolutely cannot be replicated by the latest AI model. Skills like high-level, high-stakes negotiation, deep, nuanced human empathy, complex, cross-disciplinary problem-solving, and visionary, charismatic leadership. Third, and perhaps most importantly for the year 2026, you must learn to completely embrace extreme volatility. We have left the era of stable, predictable growth behind us. In this new paradigm, stability is the most dangerous illusion of all. The world is changing entirely too fast. Geopolitics are fracturing by the hour. The climate of the global economy is purely chaotic. If you desperately seek absolute, guaranteed safety, you will be quietly eaten alive by the invisible monster of inflation. You must learn how to dance in the chaos. You must become completely anti-fragile. When the global markets take a massive, terrifying dip because of a scary headline out of the Middle East or a policy shift in Asia, the blocked amateur panics, liquidates their portfolio, and sells at the exact bottom. The unblocked professional, the one who has cleared their psychological hurdles, views that exact same dip as a beautiful, localized transfer of wealth from the impatient to the patient, and they aggressively buy the fear. We are standing together at a massive, historic crossroads right now. The decisions you make over the next 3 to 5 years are going to permanently determine the financial trajectory of your entire bloodline for the next 3 generations. The artificial intelligence revolution we are living through right now is going to create the world's first trillionaires, while simultaneously aggressively hollowing out whatever is left of the global middle class. The ongoing geopolitical fracturing is going to create massive, unprecedented winners in sectors like energy, hard commodities, cybersecurity, and defense, while brutally punishing anyone who is still reliant on the old, fragile model of cheap, globalized supply chains. The massive wealth gap between those who take the time to understand these new rules and those who stubbornly cling to the old, dead rules is going to widen into an absolute, uncrossable chasm. You are still watching this video because a deep, intuitive part of you already knows this is the truth. A part of your soul felt that invisible wall, recognized the financial blockage, and decided right here, right now, that you were no longer going to let it hold you back from your potential. You are actively seeking the raw truth, no matter how uncomfortable, heavy, or terrifying it is to confront. Removing this financial blockage is not a magical one-time event that happens overnight. It is a grueling, daily, relentless practice. It is the conscious, difficult decision made every single morning when your feet hit the floor to entirely reject the societal narrative of scarcity and victimhood. It is the hardcore discipline to turn off the entertainment, to educate yourself, to read the dry, boring macroeconomic reports, to actually understand central bank monetary policy, and to forensically track the real flow of global capital instead of following the herd. It absolutely requires you to do the shadow work. You have to look deeply at your own crippling fears about money, to investigate the financial traumas you unconsciously inherited from your parents, and to stand up and say with absolute conviction, the cycle of generational poverty and financial anxiety stops permanently with me. You are incredibly capable of mastering this new paradigm. You have the raw intelligence and the power to build immense, unshakable, generational wealth. But you have to completely, permanently let go of the childhood fantasy that a hero is coming to save you. Listen to my voice. The government is not coming to save you. The politicians, no matter what color tie they wear, are not going to save you. Your corporate employer is absolutely not going to save you. You are the sole sovereign ruler of your own life. You are the central bank of your own personal economy. You are the commanding general of your own financial future. When you finally, truly realize that the financial blockage was never actually out there in the external world, but was entirely housed within your own perception, your own limiting beliefs, and your own lack of financial education, the invisible wall shatters into a million pieces. The suffocating anxiety dissipates into thin air. The complex path forward suddenly becomes crystal clear. You stop wishing for the economic environment to be easier, and you demand of yourself to become infinitely better, smarter, and stronger. You stop hoping for a fair wind to push your ship, and you finally learn how to master the sail in the middle of a hurricane. This is exactly what we do here at Aurex. We do not hide from the storm. We look reality dead in the eye. We track the real movement of institutional money. We strip away the illusions, and we build real, tangible, unshakable wealth. Thank you for your precious time today. Thank you for your unwavering attention in a distracted world that is constantly, aggressively trying to steal it from you. Take this dense information, sit with it, reflect deeply on your own personal blockages, and start making the calculated, emotionless moves today that the future version of you in 2030 will look back on and thank you for. Stay focused on the macro picture, stay sovereign in your thinking, and I will see you in the next one.